Hello, this is Grahnath and welcome to a Minecraft tutorial. This is my first Minecraft tutorial. I've kind of been avoiding it just to kind of avoid the hype, but I have definitely made something that I really feel like I want to share. Yeah, here we go. So it all basically started with MumboJumbo's video on a color code door lock, where basically you have this button and it rotates through different colors, and you have a set lock here that unlocks and turns on a redstone output once these specifications are met. So if we just keep cycling through here, for example, until we wait until the green is on top, or pink is on top actually. And yes, so we get a redstone output. And this is super helpful because so we look at the redstone, this is nuts. There's a lot of redstone, it's pretty convoluted. However, until the 1.10 or 1.11, this was one of the most compact ways of doing it. Basically, there's a reel of 20 blocks in here, and next to it is glass. And so basically, once the reel gets this piece, a solid block, which allows the redstone output to go here instead of the glass does not allow redstone output. So I have two of these hooked up, and there's an AND gate over here, and so if we go and cycle through the second one, you'll see we need to have red at the top. Again, I have 20 of these things set up, but okay, here, hang on. And there we go. It lights up, and ooh, I've unlocked both locks because of the AND gate and a command block. Now, this is using pure redstone. This only uses redstone pistons and other items that you can find in the redstone section of your inventory. However, I tend to like to use command blocks. I'm a bit of a nerd that way, and yeah, I realize that that can't be done in survival. So in survival, this is very likely one of the best ways to use a color code to lock your house, but I'm more interested in building adventure maps, and so I use command blocks. So I wanted something smaller than that, because obviously a command block could easily get smaller than that. So I started out with something that looks a little bit like this. Now this one doesn't actually work, there's nothing that way, but this is what became of it. So if we just take these out here, alright, so you'll see that we've got a pillar here and some bookshelves, and that it slides up. So what's actually going on back here is this. It's very small. This is the observer block. Basically the way that this works is it can tell when the other side of it, so this is the observation side and this is the redstone side. If something on this side happens, either a block is placed or unplaced, you'll see that the redstone output, it gives a 1-tick redstone output. Now this I found super helpful. For instance, this little bit right here is a tiny redstone tick lengthener. So you'll notice that this actually, or I guess a shortener rather, it gives a 1-tick output here for a piston. Now, what I have here is I have set up at the very top, I have a clone command in a command block. And this is fired every time that this observer block sees something change here. Now, in this case, since the pistons are pushing this stack up, it's seeing both of these and updating this block, which clones them to the bottom. So you'll notice that when I push this button, it just infinitely gives us... Where's my button? It infinitely refills this. So obviously, if there's nothing up there to catch that, it just builds up and up and up and up until there's 12 high, because pistons can only build 12 high. But with that, I was able to use more command blocks and build this. This is the final result of my work here, and I like to think of it as a masterpiece. There's a reason that I'm doing this video for it. It is compact, it is incredibly tiny, and it works off those principles as we've seen back here. The way that this works is I have set it so that this magenta block and this observer block are being moved around. So if you click You can see the magenta block. You can see the magenta block moving. So what I have it set to is, instead of a redstone output, I have it set to these two command blocks. This is why this is particularly helpful for adventure maps. So if you look up at the top of the thing here, you can see my name and the number 0. This is using a scoreboard command, which I will have a link to in the description. Basically, the scoreboard allows me to keep track of certain things that are happening, and in this case, when the magenta block hits second from the bottom, you'll notice it goes to 1, and when it goes third and continues, it goes back to 0, which means that this is actually keeping track of when that's in the right place. That is currently in the right place. And so this is super helpful, because if, for instance, I have multiple ones, so I'm just going to type a command here and bam. So we have 5 of these, right? And each one has its own combination. Currently they're all set to the same thing, but here, watch. 0. And this one now goes to 1. And then, of course, as you can imagine, this one goes to 2, goes to 3, goes to 4, and goes to 5. So, after this, you can easily change up the combinations. You can have a command block set to look for somebody who has a score of 5. And if they do have a score of 5, you can have other stuff happen. And I will have a basic description of how that works in the description, probably. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll go into the tutorial immediately after this and give you a little bit more explanation on exactly what's happening. Okay, let's get started. So the supplies you're going to need are in my inventory. You need sandstone, piston, sticky piston, observer, command block, wool block, or some sort of an opaque solid block. You're going to need redstone dust, redstone repeater, glass, and 2 different colors or multiple colors. These are going to be the things that you have inside the color code, and of course a button. Alright, so the way that we're going to do this is we're going to start with 4 blocks here and 3 blocks across like that. Take 2 pistons, point them up, take a redstone repeater, point them towards it with redstone dust at the back, then build up 2 from here, take a sticky piston, like so, put it like that with an observer aiming downwards, so you should be able to see the little light at the bottom. Then you're going to take your opaque block and put it there. What this does is, let's take it with a button, and when you hit it with a button, this is basically a really tiny redstone tick shortener. You can notice that it kicks it up like that, and it's a 1 tick pump, and that's what we're looking for. So once you've gotten that, go ahead and take your wool and 5 up and 5 up from there. Then you're going to take your different colored wool, put it at the bottom, take an observer, and put that at the bottom. Make sure the light is facing the repeater. Then what you're going to do is up here at the top, you're going to put an observer pointing at that block, take it back out, take a command block, 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to have some 2 bits here, and then 2 more command blocks right there. Then take these 2 command blocks, change 1, 2, 3 to chain, conditional, and always active, and do the same thing to this. And this is the entire build. However, it won't function yet. You still need to have the commands in. Basically what this does, this allows the tick to be, for the pistons to be very short, which will make sense in a minute. When this moves up and comes into contact with this block, it will power it with redstone, causing these two, causing in sequence. So first this one will power, then the second one will power upon the next click of this button. Every single time one of these stacks moves up, this block observes it, and these are going to delete these blocks and copy them down to the bottom. So one thing you're going to do is hit F3, and you should be able to see something that looks like this. In the center of the screen, you'll see a green, red, and blue sort of arrow shape, or these are the X, Y, and Z axis. Red is X, and green is Y, blue is Z, and you know, that should be clear soon and why you need to know this. So just take note of which direction is which, and we'll go from there. So this first block, we're going to have the word clone in here. Now what clone does is when we set coordinates, it's going to look at a place and then copy it someplace else. So what we want to do is once this piston has pushed this up, we want it to clone these two locations where I'm looking at these two empty locations down to the bottom. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 below it. So we're going to click this and we're going to clone 2 in the X direction, none in the Y direction, 1 in the Z direction, or 0 in the Z direction. So that's that first block. Now the second part of that is 2 and 1. So these three numbers, the tillies represent numbers, these three numbers and these three numbers represent this first block and this second block. So it's going to be copying these two blocks, and we want to copy it down here, and it's going to look at the closest this direction of here. So we're going to copy it to the location 1, -5, and then nothing in the Z. So let's just test that this works. So if we push this, we should find that the glass and the wool wind up here. Looks like we need to change the X value. So let's go do that. And so that would be the second one. X value 2. That's where it's copying it. Alright, let's try this again. We will go ahead and put the put a white wool. A white wool here and a glass there. Now let's click it again and see what happens. Ah, it took this away. And success! There we go. Alright, so it is now stacking, and if we click this a bunch of times, you'll see that it just keeps on going up and 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 up, and that's not what we want right now. We want it to delete them. So, in order to make that happen, what we need to do is first let's replace these. Observer there, and magenta wool there. Alright, now it's back to the way we had it before. These two blocks are going to delete those blocks once they're there. So this one is going to set block. We're going to use air to actually delete a block. So we're going to set block 2 in the X direction, 1 in the Y direction, and 0 in the Z direction to air. Now this one's going to set block 2 in the X direction, 2 in the Y direction, 1 in the Z direction, also air. And we should find that once that's been done, when we click this, there we go. It is now cycling through properly. And here it is back at the bottom. So, now that's the cycle part. Now to the next part, the last part, which is to set these command blocks to run a scoreboard sheet. Now, this is going to be a bit complicated. I'll try to explain it as best I can. The way that scoreboards work is you type in scoreboard, and then objectives, and then we're going to add an objective, and we're going to call this tutorial combat combo. Tutorial combo and dummy. What dummy basically means is that nothing except the commands blocks will be able to mess with this. Once we click it, objective tutorial combo was successfully created. So what we're going to do is do this. Scoreboard, players, add, or this one's actually here. This one will be scoreboard, players, add. Now we're going to add to, this star means add to everyone. Every single person will have this. You can also have a player in here, or just the nearest player, but the star will do it to everyone, and that's for the tutorial what we're going to be doing. Alright, add and then tutorial combo, and we're going to add 1. Now here, let's just do this. Let's just copy paste. And instead of add, we're going to remove. That should do it. So let's take objectives, set display, list, combo. So you'll see up in the top now, that is currently displaying our combo score. And if so when this block hits this block, we should see it hit 1. Success, and it hits 1. And when it goes to this block, it should activate this command block, taking it back. And it did. So now we can cycle through endlessly, and every time it lands there, which is the correct one, that score will go to 1, and every time we move on, it'll go back to 0. In order to change this and make it so that let's say that when we add 1, we don't want the magenta block there. We want the magenta block to be at the bottom. That's all you have to do. See, now that is activating here when the magenta block is at the bottom, and as the magenta block moves on, it stays there, and it goes to the top, and when it gets to the bottom, it adds to the score. Now, the way to change this to do redstone output instead of a command block output is simply take these 4 out and take out the observer block. Then what you're going to do is you're going to put a solid block of some kind back where where the observer block was. You're going to put 2 down below it. You're put them down here. You're going to have a redstone repeater there. You're going to have a redstone torch here, so it is now trying to power this block here. It won't be able to. Put a block here, and then with redstone dust here, and a lamp here, when the purple block is at the bottom, our last code, it now turns on the lamp instead of changing the scoreboard at the top. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked it. This is one of my, I would say this is one of my favorite inventions that I've done with redstone and command blocks, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.